The hum of the asteroid base was barely audible over the metallic grind of Elias Ward's chair. He leaned back, boots kicked onto a crate marked Unallocated Surplus, 2097, slowly chewing on a stale cigar stub. Fort Deadhorse wasn't much, just a mining skeleton from Earth's early expansion days, but it was home, gritty, stubborn, and left behind like him. Outside, asteroid B9 Zeta drifted in a lazy arc, dust and debris clinging to its orbit like a shroud. Humanity called this sector the Fringe. The Galactic Coalition called it unclaimed and unworthy. That was until they found thorion ore in its belly, warp fuel's gold. And now they were coming. The proximity alarm buzzed once. Then again. Elias sat up. Eyes up, he called, his voice raspy but steady. Show time. Private Rishi leaned into the doorway, still buckling his chest plate. Sir, scanners picked up multiple landers. Threx Dominion's signature. Elias nodded. Right on schedule. Thought they'd at least pretend to be subtle. He stood and walked past the command table. Old wood, not steel, scorched by a plasma misfire years ago. On the wall hung a framed photograph, a squad of Earth Marines, dust-covered, tired, grinning. A younger Elias in the center. Below it, on a rack like an altar, lay his partner in defense and sin, Betty, a Browning M2.50 caliber machine gun. He ran a hand down her cool barrel. They're gonna laugh when they see you, girl. Let 'em. Behind him, Corporal Juno spoke, nervous. Sir, the Coalition uses multiphase shielding. That thing can't punch. She doesn't punch, Elias interrupted. She rips. Rips metal, armor, and arrogance. He slung the heavy gun over his shoulder, the strap groaning in protest. Even in exogravity, Betty wasn't light. They gathered in the central war room, just 8 soldiers left at Fort Deadhorse. Most had been reassigned. Too quiet here, they said. Waste of resources. Elias had stayed. So had his ghosts. The holographic display flickered. Red markers swarmed like ants toward their position. 3 transports. 1 dropship. No gunboats. They're not expecting resistance, said Juno, scanning the feed. Elias nodded. Then let's disappoint. Elsewhere, the enemy prepared. Commander Vailtak adjusted the crimson cape draped across his shoulders as the landing ramp hissed open. Threx Dominion Elite, clad in chrome shine armor and armed with rail carbines, stepped onto the black rock. Primitives, he spat. No planetary artillery. No orbital guard. And they defend with projectile toys? His adjutant, Krelsan, smirked. They filed a distress signal 3 months ago. No response. This place is dust. Vailtak's fingers curled. This is not conquest. This is performance. Back at the ridge above the central shaft, Elias mounted Betty with the care of a surgeon prepping for war. The rusted tripod bit into stone. He fed in the first belt, linked blackened, marked with red-tipped rounds. Below, through magnified optics, he watched alien boots hit the ground. Juno, mark that cluster by the eastern gulch. Rishi, you're my belt feeder. Rishi blinked. Sir, with all due respect, isn't it outdated? Elias didn't look away from the scope. You ever seen a Threx tank cry? No, sir. You're about to. The aliens moved in formation. Smooth. Disciplined. Confident. Too confident. The first skirmish hit on the western side. Coalition soldiers swept through makeshift bunkers, burning human drones in seconds with silent blasts of violet light. They laughed. They joked. They never saw the glint on the ridge. Elias exhaled, steady, calm. Betty, sing! He squeezed the trigger. Thwack, 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 thwack. The roar of the .50 BMG tore across the void like thunder in a cathedral. The lead Threx officer exploded mid-step, body vaporized at the chest. Armor crumpled, visors shattered. They dove for cover, too late. Elias didn't stop. Each pull of the trigger was surgical. Ruthless. Coalition tactics unraveled in seconds. Rishi flinched behind the gun's deafening chorus. This it's chewing them alive! No. It's reminding them, Elias growled, that humans make tools, not toys. Down below, Veiltak's comm crackled. Commander, our shields aren't holding. Projectiles are kinetic, too dense, too fast. No plasma recoil. What in the stars? Return fire. The soldiers tried. Blue bolts lit up the ridge but missed wide. Betty didn't miss. One round tore through 2 soldiers and punched into a fuel cell. Fire bloomed. Veiltak's jaw clenched. He looked up and saw it, a single human, standing over a silver beast that spat death from steel teeth. In the command cave, Elias stepped off the trigger, breathing hard. The valley was silent. Just smoke. Ash. Scattered limbs. He turned to his team. They wanted to test the old man, he said, lifting Betty gently from her perch. They got history class instead. This isn't war, Commander Veiltak declared, pacing before his armored vanguard. It's reclamation from an infestation. They stood in the belly of the primary Threx transport, parked atop the jagged plains beyond Fort Deadhorse. The planetless sky above them stretched black and bare. 20 soldiers in shimmering chrome shields flanked him, rail carbines charged, orders loaded directly into neural command lines. A low-ranking Threx foot soldier snickered. They still use bullets, Commander. Bullets. Like planetary savages. Veiltak didn't smile. Savages with aim, apparently. He tapped his gauntlet and brought up a battlefield feed. The footage was raw, helmet cam from Trooper Varnak's visor. It showed a burst of bright light, then sudden static, followed by silence. When the visual returned, there was only blood mist and a hole where Varnak's chest used to be. The room fell quiet. Veiltak folded his arms. 1 man. 1 weapon. 7 confirmed kills. Their outposts should have collapsed by now. Krelsan leaned in. Sir, our analysis suggests it's a chemical propulsion system. Crude. Loud. But effective. It's not the weapon, Veiltak muttered. It's the man using it. Atop the ridge, Elias knelt beside Betty, feeding another belt into her throat with calloused fingers. Smoke still curled off her barrel. Temps rising, Juno said, checking the gauge. Another few bursts like that and the barrel warp. Then we cool her down between screams, Elias replied. Betty's old, not fragile. Rishi returned from the observation post. Commander, 3 more squads advancing. They're fanning out. How far? 2 clicks. Coming low and wide. Think they're probing. Elias scratched his chin. No. That's a clean-up formation. They still think we're a dying ember. He glanced at the others. 7 men and women holding a position meant for 30. You want to leave? He said quietly. No one answered. You should. I'm not gonna sugarcoat this. They outnumber us, outgun us, and probably outlive us. But they don't outfight us. Juno stepped forward. We stay. Damn right, said Rishi, gripping his rifle tighter. Inside the coalition ranks, movement was precise, clockwork perfect. The second wave of Threx troops descended the canyon edge in synchronized bursts. Their armor shimmered as they activated phase shields. Drones flanked them, scanning for heat and electromagnetic pulses. Contact should be imminent, said a Threx lieutenant. Visuals confirm fortified ridge. Minimal defense. Veiltak activated his own HUD. I'll take the center. Sir? Krelsan asked. I want to see it myself. Elias crouched near the ammo crates, running fingers along Betty's feed tray. You ready, girl? He whispered. He paused. Listened. No engines. No chatter. Just the faint crunch of bootsteps and dust. They're here. Rishi raised his binocs. They're splitting, 2 squads circling east and west, one's moving straight up. Juno adjusted her shoulder strap. That straight up squad, they're walking like they already won. Elias gave a half smile. Let's teach them humility. The eastern flank moved first. 2 Threx soldiers emerged from the shale underpass, armor shimmering blue. They spotted a crude barricade made from broken crate slabs. No threat, no heat. They advanced. The trap snapped. Twin EMP mines detonated underfoot. Their shields collapsed in an instant. A heartbeat later, 2 suppressed human rifles spat quietly. The soldiers crumpled like dropped puppets. From the central pass, Galactic saw the flashes. They're using traps. Crude electronics. Improvised tactics. They're surviving, Krelsan muttered. Then came the sound again. C-chake-a-c-chake-a-c-chake-a. Betty roared. A wall of lead shredded the canyon air, kicking dust and bone into the wind. The forward squad broke formation immediately. One trooper dove, another was split open mid-jump. The last stood frozen as the rounds tore through his shield and caught him high in the neck. He spun, fell, twitched. Still. Galactic hit the ground, rolled behind a rocky outcrop. His cape smoldered where a round had grazed it. "This is not possible," he growled. "That is not possible." He activated his comms. "All forces, focus fire on the ridge gun. Full suppression." Bullets met beams in the dying light. Plasma bolts seared the cliffside. Rocks burst like glass. Betty clanked, hissed, coughed, but didn't stop. Elias leaned harder into the mount, a cigarette stub between his teeth. "You want my ridge?" he growled between bursts. "Come. Climb it." He let off a burst so precise, it caught a drone mid-pivot. The machine spiraled, then crashed into one of the Threx. Friendly fire never felt so friendly. Behind him, Juno tapped his shoulder. "Ammo's halfway. We'll make it dance." Another blast rocked their position. Part of the ledge collapsed behind them. "Commander!" Rishi shouted, ducking. "They've got a targeting drone above. It's painting the coordinates. Let them." Elias dragged the crate forward and opened the lid. Inside, AP incendiary rounds. Marked red-black. "Time to give 'em a light show." He changed belts. In the canyon below, Galactic heard the tone shift. The machine gun's rhythm changed. Each shot was slower, more spaced, but louder. Hotter. Then he saw it. The rounds didn't just hit, they exploded. Armor ignited. Shields caught fire. One soldier tried to roll but ignited like kindling. Krelsan screamed over the radio. "These aren't standard rounds. They're using fire-tipped shells." Galactic stood, furious. This is madness." "No, sir," a dying Threx whispered into comms, blood bubbling from his mask. "It's Earth." After 10 full minutes of hell, the shooting stopped. Smoke hovered like a curtain over the canyon floor. Elias removed his gloves, hands shaking slightly. "Status?" he asked, voice hoarse. Juno replied. 3 flanks neutralized. Drone disabled. No casualties." Elias exhaled. "Then we're not done yet." In the fading light, Galactic limped back to the dropship. His armor was charred, shoulder cracked. Krelsan followed, face ashen. "They fight like cornered beasts." Galactic spat. "No," Krelsan corrected. "They fight like ghosts who never learned to die." The canyon lay still. Dust floated where men had once stood. A single casing rolled down the ridge and tapped against rock. Ping, ping, silence. Elias reloaded in a squat. His fingers worked on instinct. Each round fed into the belt with reverence, not haste. Betty was burning hot. Barrel smoked. Tripod legs pitted from near hits. But she was alive. So was he. "Status?" Elias called out without turning. Juno's voice crackled from the calm. 4 drones shot down. One of ours still flying. They're regrouping at the southern gorge. "How many?" "Estimate 20. Maybe more." Elias grunted. "They're done probing. Next one's the push." Behind him, Rishi crouched beside a torn ammo crate. "Commander, that was most of our incendiaries. We've got maybe 2 belts of armor-piercing left." "Good. That's all we'll need." Commander Galactic stood over the body of Krelsan. His second-in-command had taken a round through the thigh, then another through the skull, trying to crawl. Veiltak hadn't looked away. Now he stared at the ridge, jaw locked. "This is no longer a skirmish," he muttered. "It's a vendetta." A younger officer approached, hesitant. "Sir, headquarters demands a status report." Veiltak turned. "Tell them the humans have deployed an ancestral weapon of mass disruption. Tell them we're recalibrating for atmospheric advantage. Don't tell them we're bleeding." The officer saluted and vanished. Elias pressed his ear to the ground. The vibrations were faint but steady. "Vehicles," he muttered. "Tracked. One's heavy. They're bringing in walkers." Juno climbed up beside him. "Those things have hull plating. Betty might not pierce them. She won't need to. You have a plan?" Elias stood, brushing dust from his knees. "I've got a memory." 17 years ago, Elias had faced an orbital drop of Centauri rebels with a single machine gun, 3 mines, and a hill. He hadn't expected to win. He'd won anyway. Back then, he'd learned the key to force multipliers wasn't ammo. It was placement. "New plan," Elias said to the team. "Juno, take the AP belts and dig in behind the ridge bend, tight funnel. Rishi, you're with me. We're going to lead them into the cut." He marked 3 spots in the dirt with a combat knife. "Betty goes here. They'll crest this ridge thinking we've pulled back. That's when we cut the line." Rishi hesitated. "Sir, those walkers, if they get close, we're dead." Elias offered a half smile. "Then don't let them get close." Minutes passed. Then the ground began to tremble. The walkers arrived first, 6-legged tanks with mounted railgun turrets and deployable infantry from their sides. Plasma shields surrounded them in a dull shimmer. Behind them, ranks of Threx soldiers in perfect formation. It looked like overkill. It was meant to. Inside the lead walker, Veiltak stood behind the pilot. "Visual on ridge?" "Affirmative. Scanners show minimal heat. They've evacuated the upper line. Then they've given up." The pilot nodded. "Orders? Advance. Erase what remains." The walkers crept up the slope. Legs like insect limbs stabbed into shale. The air grew hotter as the rail guns powered up. Threx troops marched alongside, weapons primed. From the ridge came nothing. No shots. No movement. Just silence. Then came the sound, a long, low metallic clank. The forward walker stopped. "Sir?" the pilot asked. Veiltak leaned in. "Why did you?" He never finished the sentence. From beneath the walker, a pressure mine detonated with the force of a dropped star. The explosion hurled the walker sideways. A leg tore off. The right flank of troops was incinerated in the blast radius. Elias' voice came through the comms. "That's your warning shot." And Betty spoke again. Thump, thump, thump. Elias opened fire as the second walker turned, trying to reposition. He didn't aim at armor. He aimed for the joints, knees, leg pivots, hydraulic lines. Sparks flew. One round caught a side hatch. It burst open. Screams echoed. Juno, from the funnel point, opened up with suppressed bursts, picking off exposed soldiers as they scattered. Rishi launched a thermal grenade into the undercarriage of a third walker. It exploded like fireworks in a coffin. The battlefield fell apart. The formation broke. Veiltak watched in horror as his soldiers panicked, not from numbers, but volume. The noise of Betty drowned out orders, overrides, even common sense. Elias kept firing. Short bursts. Measured. He could feel Betty's barrel pulse under his grip. One jam. He cleared it. Back on trigger. A round sang past his ear. Another clipped his shoulder armor. He felt the sting, didn't flinch. One walker tried to retreat. It turned too wide. Lost footing. Toppled into a gulch. "Juno, status. 2 squads down. 1 walker disabled. We've got 4 rounds left." "Then make 'em count." Veiltak, coughing through smoke and fury, screamed into his comms. "Fall back. Regroup." A retreat signal pulsed from his gauntlet. But the troops didn't respond. They couldn't hear him. Most were dead. The rest were running. Betty clicked empty. Elias stepped back, panting. His ears rang. His chest thudded like a drum. Rishi dropped beside him. They're retreating. Elias nodded. Told you. Just needed to teach them to listen. He walked to the edge of the ridge, raised a broken helmet high, and dropped it over. It rolled end over end and landed at Veltak's feet. He looked up, eyes wide. Elias gave him a nod. Not of peace. Not of mercy. Just recognition. You met Earth, he muttered. Fort Deadhorse didn't feel like a war zone anymore. It felt like a tomb. Smoke still curled along the jagged ridge. Cracked hulls and twisted alien limbs littered the canyon like forgotten relics. Betty rested silent, muzzle blackened, barrel scorched, casing belt draped empty across her side like a tongue gone still. Elias sat beside her, elbows on knees, chest slowly rising. His left shoulder was wrapped in a field bandage. The wound had clotted, clean exit. Not that it mattered. He wasn't planning on dying today. You good? Juno asked, sitting beside him, legs stretched out. Alive, Elias replied, voice hoarse. Tired. Juno glanced at Betty, then back at him. That thing, it shouldn't still work. But it does. Just like you. Elias chuckled. Some things don't break. They just wait for a reason. Rishi joined them, carrying a battered thermos. Brew's weak. Couldn't get the power core to heat fully. Tastes like engine water. Elias took a sip and nodded. Perfect. They didn't talk for a moment. There wasn't anything to say. Everything loud had already been said in brass and blood. On the battlefield below, a retrieval drone buzzed low. It scanned for life, found none. The Threx Dominion's last walker lay half-submerged in a crater. Its pilot had crawled 10 meters before something, probably shrapnel, ended the effort. Coalition ships hovered on the far edge of orbit, no longer advancing. Not after the footage. Not after the retreat order. They'd watched everything. Earth's old war toys. The bodies. The silence after. They'd underestimated the cost of a forgotten hill. Now they hesitated. Hours later, a transmission request blinked on Fort Deadhorse's console. Encrypted. Coalition sigils. Elias walked in, wiping grease from his hands. Who's calling? Juno frowned. Command says it's a diplomatic channel. Coalition wants to discuss terms. Elias pulled up a chair, leaned forward. Put it through. The screen flickered to life. Veltak's face appeared, gaunt, bruised, one eye half swollen shut. He'd removed his armor. No cape. No emblems. Sergeant Elias Ward, Veltak said carefully. You look worse than last time. Elias replied, resting his chin on his fist. You fight like a man. We fight like humans. Veltak studied him in silence. Why didn't you pursue? You had the advantage. Wasn't a war, Elias said. It was a reminder. A reminder? Elias nodded. That Earth doesn't bluff. We don't bark. We wait, and when you get close enough, we bite. Later, as the sunless sky darkened to deep violet, Juno brought up the replay logs. Elias stood behind her, arms crossed. The screen showed a drone's angle from above the ridge. A tiny human shape. Betty firing, rounds streaking into chaos. Heat flares. Soldiers scattering. And amid all that, calm. You're in every frame, she said. Elias squinted. It's not about me. But it is, Juno said. They'll send this across every outpost. Maybe every planet. Earth stood, and one old machine gun held the line. He shook his head. It's not the gun either. Then what is it? Elias looked at the screen, his reflection flickering in the corner. It's the choice. The one we all make. To stand, even when we shouldn't have to. He turned and walked away. By morning, reinforcements finally arrived. Not to save them, but to witness. Drop ships descended slowly, cautiously, as if unsure they wouldn't be fired on. Earth soldiers poured out, young, armored, fresh-faced. They gawked at the twisted wreckage and the machine gun set like a crown atop the ridge. "Where's the turret?" one recruit asked. Juno smirked. "Wasn't one. That cannon? It's ancient." Elias passed by them, Betty slung over his back. "She prefers experienced." A press drone hovered nearby. A woman in a clean EDF uniform approached him with a mic. "Sergeant Ward, can I ask, what message would you give to the Galactic Coalition after what happened here?" Elias glanced toward the cratered field. The wrecked walkers. The scorched scars in the rock. He adjusted his grip on Betty, looked directly into the lens. "No messages," he said. "Just memory. Let them remember." That night, Fort Deadhorse was quiet again. No drills. No alerts. Just the slow breath of dust settling. Elias sat alone near the outer wall, looking into space. Stars blinked silently, indifferent. Juno walked over and handed him a metal tag, dog tag from a fallen soldier, charred but legible. "Thought you might want this." Elias turned it over. The name was faded. An old friend. Lost in a different war. "Thanks," he said, pocketing it. "You ever think about retiring?" Juno asked. Elias smirked. "Every day." "But—" He looked out again. "Some of us stay until the guns stop needing us." Down the hall, a younger recruit knelt beside Betty, marveling at the design. "This thing's insane," he whispered. "How'd it even work against shields?" Juno walked past, overhearing. She stopped and smiled. "She didn't go through them," she said. "She tore them down." A week later, Fort Deadhorse was upgraded to Tier 1 strategic. Supplies poured in. Barracks rebuilt. A statue of Betty was commissioned, much to Elias' irritation. He hated statues. But he didn't argue. Some memories deserved to last. Final transmission broadcast from Fort Deadhorse. Text only. No image. No music. 4 words. "Still standing. Still human."